Hello and welcome to the Peter Diagnos podcast. So we're going to do a check-in about spiritual warriors and those who've been going through it and feeling the waves and the tides of energy in the world right now. Today's November 30th and I'm feeling an upswing for December. It really is like a tide that you can't predict and you can't control, like the projections and the anger and the guilt and the grief of people. So we really do all have to process it together in one sense. So I think that's what leads to a sense of deep loneliness, like a loneliness that started in 2020 and just progressed. Like it's like the world is resisting going into the depths and going into their own shadow. So being aware of these things, it makes the world seem like a scary place. For me, at least, I've been struggling because it's not even that you don't have anyone to talk to, it's that also, even if you could talk to them, it wouldn't like do anything to take away the work that you have to do, which is feeling the intensity of the emotion, which is just basically people in the world running from themselves, hiding from themselves. And I feel angry and bitter in some ways, like that's the reaction that comes up, or my abandonment wounds, because I feel like people are so depleted and are so, at least for the people that like haven't woke up or are just waking up, they're so awestruck or sort of shocked that they're in like a freeze. So it feels like the world is so noisy and they're like a baby looking at all these toys and this stimulation, like this colors and sounds, and it's like you can't even really get anyone's attention, so you start to feel invisible even when you are hanging out with them or in their presence. People are so distracted, and it's like this string or this thread of consciousness where you just feel like isolated. And I know it's supposed to be that way, I guess. But it is very lonely. You do feel like you're kind of holding the line. And then the more you talk, the more you feel like you're shouting into a void, because either no one can hear you or most people can't give like a real feedback that comes from like a real heart place, like actually hold space in their container for you. So you're just like, am I going crazy? Like, is this reality? What's reality? Well, it's just, we all signed up to come here to confront the collective karma, the collective grief, the collective lies, the collective bubble of fear that we've been living under lifetime after lifetime. But it's no fun, really, when you're aware of all of it, like you're too aware of the game, and most of the people around you just aren't. And there's varying degrees of being aware of it. Like, I don't know, like I was, I often feel that I have a certain, I went out on this really remote trail in Sedona, like really far out, on the primitive road, and I like to go out there because it's so peaceful and undisturbed, and you almost feel like you can unplug your energy from the matrix a bit, from like the people around you. And I often feel a certain intimacy with the collective consciousness, like the collective one heart that we are, even when I'm like, could be hundreds of miles away, like out in the middle of nowhere in the wilderness. So it's already so loud for me that I can like feel my family and my friends even when I'm out there. But it's almost like, and that's the thing about loners, like I don't like to pigeonhole myself or anyone else, but loners and the creative types, the introspective types, like we don't feel alone when we're alone. Like it's It's a very rich inner world, and it's teeming with life and waiting to be expressed. But if you don't have the necessary alone time, you can't bring those ideas to life or actually formulate those. If you're bridging worlds, you're feeling the other worlds a lot. You're feeling your psychic antenna get pinged a lot. You feel like you're totally insane half the time. So we need the time to kind of bring that to life, like be intimate with ourselves or the multidimensional aspects of ourselves. I don't know, I feel kind of beat down and exhausted. And I know this is probably playing into a theme that I've played in many lives, which is like the loner, or like going out in the woods, or like kind of having a more shamanic inclination, maybe having more of a connection with the plants and the trees and the herbs than the tribe. Like you can develop a relationship. I like to work with flower essences, just connect with the spirit of a plant. And it's weird because you just feel like these are sentient intelligences, sentient living things, and we can have actual dialogues with them. But since humanity is so dumbed down at this point, it's not that I can't have intelligent conversations with some people, but it's just much harder to find. So you can have those, let's say, higher dimensional or higher echelons of love dialogues with a tree or a plant or a flower, or taking the flower's essence, the flower spirit, into your body with a drop of the flower essence. And that's really the issue. It's often a lack of feedback. So you have to become your own best friend. I remember a lot of panic attacks, a lot of times in my life where I was so overwhelmed, felt like I was being just crushed and disintegrated into 1,000 little pieces. When you have those experiences of soul fragmentation or being siphoned, or all the various things of evil, in quotes, like that are trying to cut you down, hurt you, hit you, bruise you, but really are just serving you and helping you alchemize and come back into wholeness. I'm not saying that to invalidate your experience, though, because I know this life is still real. It can be a dream, but it's still real while you're here. The heart pain that you experience is still real. So I just want to say to kind of hang in there, because I do believe all the investments that you put into God, you put into your growth, your shadow work, it will pay off. And it feels like we've been under the water for so long at this point, like 4+ years now, of this psychic and spiritual warfare. So, because you feel abandoned, you feel like you lost good friends and good comrades out on the battlefield to the deadness, to the dullness and the deadening and the zombie nature. I'm trying to forgive. I'm really trying to forgive and love and see, my family, friends, everyone in the world as an aspect of me, because they are. It's different levels of consciousness, but when you really think about, I don't know, I struggle with that anger and that bitterness sometimes, because I feel like some of us are tasked with transmuting more of the collective pain and dread, and because it's such an individualistic society, I have a harder time fitting it. Like, because when I'm with a person having a conversation, I often feel like I'm morphing into them, like I'm having an open heart to them, and I'm kind of sinking to their rhythms. And yes, there's a part of that that's very unhealthy, and they talk about the people pleasing and the enmeshment and all that, but it's just sort of my nature, to want to love everyone, to want to see the best in everyone. But it's just, I feel like I often lose myself because I'm trying to merge hearts. But this society is more like, oh, I'm competing with you, I'm gonna show you how strong and great and how rich and wealthy and famous I am. And that's how you're connecting when it's more soulless, friendships or whatever, or family or anything. So I always felt like at a disconnect, like dancing a different dance and disconnected. So that's a bit about me, but I'm just speaking to a bit of the alienation. Um, so I do believe, so what was I saying about the investments paying off? Even though we've been in the dark and the temptation can be to fall into doomsday thinking, it's never going to get better. Oh, I'm never going to get out of this job, or I'm never going to meet um, more loving people, or whatever. It's almost grander in a sense, of a scale, when you go in the dark for so many years and your faith is tested, then God will reward you 1,000-fold, 1,000,000-fold for that faith. Like they say, the love you put out has to come back to you in some form, even if you believe that the world has cheated you, you've been persecuted, you've been outcasted, you've been slandered, you've been abandoned. And a lot of us are feeling that right now, right? And on the surface, you could say, well, all right, you have food on the table, you have a place to live, you have a job, whatever. But a lot of us are feeling just miserable, just this deep dread, this deep angst, this deep, like, I'm not fulfilled, I'm not satisfied, I'm not connected with anything, I'm not connected to my inner soul, to my inner spirit, to my true essence, to my true power. Like, where's my motivation? Where's my spark? Why do I feel so blah about everything? Why does this society train people to be miserable and hate themselves? So I think December, there was a big timeline shift in November, but still a lot of chaos, being a lot of anger and angst being projected like into the field. But December, now I can feel already this uptick, this quickening, this coming out party. It's like when you feel the energy shift from very introspective to then very like, all right, I'm here, I want to talk, I want to be in the game, I have the energy to go out, to do things, to connect, I need to. So in a way, November and December were like a little energy package, like a little zip file containing like a preview of 2025, the energy, which is more liberation, more power, more like the light quotient tipping over to most of the planet, where it's more of like an energetic dominance or stronghold or foothold. Because people are doing the work, healing themselves and purging, releasing. But I really just want to find meaning and connection and deeper purpose and deeper fulfillment, because I often feel, even though I put out these podcasts and social media and do social media stuff like videos, it does often feel like shouting into a void, or you just feel like you're not really connecting. You don't really feel connected with your own essence, like you're barely hanging on, or wanting that more of that nourishment, like to share the journey with more people in the outside world, to not feel like this, lunatic. Oh, what's this talking about energy? Like, the world's fine, whatever, politics, election, football game. I'm really just trying to capture the richness of my experience, the pain of my experience, and how do I turn it around? How do I alchemize it? How do I become a better person and work on those, like, vices and the tendency to slip into like whatever, binge eating, negative thoughts, sweets, just being lazy, being isolated, It's a daily battle that I struggle with every day. And I'm trying to just win that battle every day, because there's certainly an abundance of thought forms and emotions and energy in this quicksand, in this pool in the collective consciousness, that will suck you down at any moment if you get sloppy, if you get complacent. You really are holding the line. You really are holding that frequency and waiting for others to catch up, like waiting for others to join you and come. And they will eventually. And I'm trying to let go and just forgive everyone and not be in that superiority thing, and just see that we're all at one level or another, we all feel the same pain. Like when you look into someone's eyes, you know that they're the same heart, they're the same soul. And even if you do feel like you're on very different radio stations, when you can love them and see that aspect of them and honor that and kind of bow to that, you're honoring and bowing to yourself, really. And that's a beautiful thing. Like, that's the main joy of life for me. And I know even if you listen to the things I say on social media, like, I often do play in separation. Like, I am blinded by anger and things like this, but I do think it's a necessary part of the process, because I'm not a saint and I'm not perfect all the time. So I'm just saying it as I am. And I can know that, when I'm calm and in a good state right now. But the key is to embody it day to day. You just got to get into the game, get into the nastiness. Maybe you got to get some anger out. Maybe you're not a saint. And then I learn about my faults. I'm not perfect. That's why I don't portray a perfect image on social media, because I think that would be more harmful, because it's kind of like shaming people or presenting a false image of myself. I slip up all the time. I make mistakes. So the energy shift of December is almost like previewing, we're like pulling 2025 back to us, almost like beginning it. And it feels like a really good new chapter. But I think the main thing is that I'm realizing, and that many of you may be realizing, is that whatever people in the mainstream consciousness, if they were crazy and chaotic and like clueless before, it's not going to change. But it may seem like there's a wider gap in the frequency gap, because it's another year has gone by and we've jumped and we're on a really good timeline now, as good as could be, I think, just because we chose, independent of the election. It had nothing to do with the election, because I felt the shift before the election. It's because we chose at a higher self level to choose unity, to choose love, to just be fed up with all this crap. And like, we're choosing. This is a definitive decision coming from our souls. We command it, we say it, we know it. But the thing is that what we'll have to realize is that not everyone's going to be able to recognize that and realize that in this lifetime, or become conscious of it. It might seem more dissonant and more crazy. Like, you might not recognize family members and friends because you grew that much. They kind of stayed the same, or were progressing slower. But at the same time that there is that frequency gap in the 3D, we have to see that although some people may appear lower consciousness, the exercise I'm doing is to really just see them and love them as an aspect of God, as I am. And then we're lifting the whole game, the whole hologram, the whole earth. And just breathing through it and getting through it, because it feels like your head is just like, it's dizzying. I feel like you're getting like smacked around left to right. And just stay in the game, get off social media, get off your phone, have time in nature to be intimate with yourself, tune into the natural rhythms of nature. That's crucial at this time, very crucial. So it feels like a very narrow passageway, but I know it's going to pay off, because what else am I going to do? Right? That's what I have. I have faith. I have faith and hope for the best, because what's the other alternative? Hope for the worst? Or be like lazy and pessimistic? I've certainly done a lot of that in my life, but I don't want to continue to be that way. So I have a lot of hope, and I see this energy supporting us through December and then to next year. But November was kind of nasty collectively. Almost like you just don't even know what you're feeling. It's such an overwhelming amount of projections and anger, and I don't know, it's like people are sending things out into the collective field that were never sent out before, because people that are being forced to awaken are angry, and they don't know, they don't have a toolbox, they don't have spiritual tools, they don't know how to look inside. So all they can do is be angry and, all right, let's double down on work, or control here, control there. I'm going to get angry about the political parties. And then they're just siphoning their energy into low vibrational things because they're all jazzed up. But in reality, what they need to do is love themselves and open their heart. So keep speaking this heart language, because I really see that as a real precious gem, like a diamond in the rough now. And those of you that are doing it, I really appreciate that. And if you feel really beat up, just know that I do too, like really beat down. Just some scars and nastiness. And I feel like I've gotten in the game, you could say, the last few years more, put myself out there more. And it's not without its fair share of like getting beat up, you know? So, but I know it's worth it. I know it's worth it because I'm staying true to myself. We're keeping that flame lit to show others how to light their flame, how to see their own capabilities. And maybe the time for like, I told you so, and that kind of angry thing is past. You know, I feel like we're maturing past that. And I am too. Like, I think it's more like, all right, I want to appreciate my loved ones and my friends, family, everyone, with the time that I have left with them. You know, I live across the country. My family is in New York. I'm in Arizona. So I don't see them that often. And really just treasure this collective creation, like what God created, what we all created. Because I do regret the ways that I've played in separation, but I did learn a lot. But I can acknowledge that I became too stubborn, like just way too stubborn, too perfectionist, too idealistic, too one-track minded. And you can be stuck in those places for years, in isolation and stubbornness and ego. So I pray that you will just see different sides of the coin, keep exposing yourself to new ideas. Don't become too entrenched in the constant war thinking, you know, and just try to release and forgive and see everyone, the divine aspect of everyone. And just hang in there, because we all feel lonely and drained and miserable at times. Like a real deep, it's not a loneliness that you could describe 5-10 years ago. It's deeper than that. It's just a deep existential anger, dread, desperation, rage, like just primal rage that you just feel in a lot of people. And I'm talking to you empathic souls that pick up on this pulse of the collective consciousness constantly, and you can't seem to escape it. It feels like I have to keep going to the grass and the trees to do my grounding exercises, but I can sometimes never do enough, or like clear it out of my body, or throw it, or blow it into the ground, push it into Gaia, have her transmute it and send it back up as new energy. So just be compassionate to yourself. I'm really trying to be compassionate to myself, because when you do that, you're really loving the world. If you are everyone and we're all one, loving yourself is loving all of us. Just look up when you're on the street, you know, or in the doctor's office or elevator or whatever else. Just keep connecting, keep having faith in people, because the good ones and the bright lights exist, but also like take the pleasure in loving the God in everyone, even your enemies, even the people that have nothing for you, like the crazy guy rambling on the street corner on the train. It's just all a creation of God and us. So we will be rewarded, and we will feel this as a new tide of energy, like a new return on investment, a new strength. And that static and anger and blah blah and craziness of the 3D, like lower dimensional reality, will still be there, but will be stronger because you built that faith muscle day in and day out, that heart muscle. And then once you advance levels, you never have to go back down to a lower level. So it's like spiritual armor, spiritual powers, spiritual special powers. So be disciplined in honoring and loving yourself every day, with working out, with energy clearing, with everything, and just stay in the game. Keep moving. Thank you.